Hi there, welcome to Yoga for First Responders. I'm Heather. So today we're going to do a little slowing down practice, also known as Yin Yoga. I like to call it Yin-ish Yoga because we don't hold it quite as long as a traditional style. But what Yin Yoga is kind of the opposite. You know, there's Yin and Yang. So our Yang lifestyle or Yang Yoga would be our movement, our heat building, kind of that typical yoga that I like to do, where we just move and breathe and build heat from within. But our bodies need balance, right? So Yin is like the opposite to that. It's slowing down. We hold our stretches for a little bit longer, about 1 to 2 minutes. We're going to hold each stretch today. And it's just a great opportunity to slow down not only the body, but also the mind. And I like to warn people it is often the hardest type of yoga, just because it's hard to be still. It's hard to be comfortable with the quiet, with the stillness. So I'm going to give you just a little intro into some Yin Yoga today, and hopefully you like it. So let's go ahead and begin. You can, we're actually going to start in child's pose. So if that's comfortable for you, go ahead and make your way to your knees. And it's completely up to you how far apart those knees are. They can be close together, far apart. Maybe try to bring those big toes together. And then go ahead and walk those hands forward out in front of you and finding a spot for your forehead to rest. So I always like to say the forehead, it can be resting on the floor. You can always stack your hands and rest your forehead on your hands. Or if you have a block handy, blocks are very useful. You can always bring a block underneath that forehead. So either way, just finding a space where you feel comfortable here. Just to pause for a moment and settle in. Bringing awareness to the breath. And just take this moment to just check in with the body. How it feels right now, maybe where your mind is at. And then again, try to find the breath. Just see if you can feel the breath moving into the body and slowly back out again. 3 full breaths here. You might be able to feel the breath moving as the body rests over those legs or the floor. And just 1 more full breath in. And a long breath out. And then just very gently as you continue to breathe here, maybe you lift that forehead just a tiny bit off the mat. And just beginning to rock those hips side to side. Just a couple times as we start to find some movement through the hips and through the back. And then just slowly coming back to center, bringing those hips back to center, and let's walk both hands over to the left side. Gently try to reach or lean those hips over to the right as we begin to open through the right side of the body, the torso, through the arm. Just take another deep breath in here. And on the breath out, just softening through those shoulders. Now as we pause here, one thing that's challenging in Yin Yoga, or just any time we pause, is to try to stay in the moment, in the stretch. So I like to use one of 3 different things to keep my focus, or to help draw my focus back in. So one of those things can always be the breath. Just try to notice how you are breathing. You can always use that breath out to help soften. Let's just take 3 more breaths here on this side. Maybe find a spot for the forehead to rest, Or maybe it's just hovering over the floor. And then on that next breath in, lifting the head and slowly walking those hands back to center. Let's just pause right here in the center just for a breath so you can check in with both sides of the body, how they feel, what you feel. And then inhale, walking those hands over to the opposite sides, over to your right. Gently leaning or reaching those hips to the left. Try to really extend, especially through that left arm. And then again, pausing here, maybe finding a spot your forehead or your head can rest on your arm, on the mat, on your block. And then maybe you try to stay with a breath. Or another thing I like to use is a connection. So a physical connection with the body and the mat. So maybe I keep my focus on the fingertips as they are connected with the floor. Or maybe I feel, the tops of the feet as they're connected with the mat. Let's find 3 more breaths here. And maybe on that next inhale, we'll slowly lift the head, walking those hands back to center, and then slowly walking them all the way up. So we come up onto those knees. Now for a moment you can keep those hips on the heels, or you can come all the way up tall onto those knees, whatever feels better. But we're just going to do a few seated cat and cows. So maybe try bringing those hands to the tops of those legs here. And on our inhale, just lifting nice and tall through the crown of the head, and let's take a big shoulder roll down and back. So slightly turning that gaze up towards the ceiling, and try to just reach the belly forward as you lift up through the heart. Then on the next breath out, we're just going to reverse direction. So we draw the belly in, drawing the chin towards the chest. Shoulders can completely soften as they round. And then let's just move with the breath a few times. Inhaling as we reach forward and up. Exhaling as we round through the back. Slightly tucking those hips as the belly draws in. Inhaling forward. Shoulder blades draw down the back. Exhaling as we round it out, and let's go 2 more times each direction. Inhaling as we lift. Exhaling as we come back. And just 1 more time. And slowly making your way back to center, back to that neutral spine. All right, let's come off of those knees a little bit. So go ahead and bring those hands forward, slightly out in front of those shoulders, and then tucking our toes. Now if the tops of those feet were on the mat, you might need to roll out those ankles a few times. They're a little bit stiff or tight there. But then again, let's just bring those toes to the floor, gently reaching the hips back towards the heels, grounding down into those fingertips as we lift the knees. Reaching those hips back and up. Just finding your downward dog. Taking a few breaths here, maybe you walk out those heels a few times. Just bending one knee towards the mat as you reach the opposite heel down, and then just alternating or switching sides. Maybe try taking it a little bit deeper the next time you bend through that right knee. Go ahead and drop that right shoulder towards the floor and pause right there. 2 full breaths, just turning that gaze underneath the left arm. Try to continue to lift up through that left hip. And then we'll switch legs. Bending the left knee, dropping the left shoulder. Turning the gaze under that right arm. And just once more each side. And then go ahead and relax both heels towards the floor. And on our inhale, try lifting that right leg up. reaching it straight back behind you. It doesn't have to be very high. On the exhale, let's bend that right knee and we're going to draw the knee forward and slowly bring that foot to the mat. Walking those toes forward or walking the hands back until that right knee comes right above the ankle, and we'll drop the left knee to the floor. So just finding a gentle kneeling lunge here. Try to make sure this right knee stays right above the ankle here and doesn't go past. We want to take care of that knee joint. And again here, you can always use a block or two. You can have a block on either side of the foot. Or you can also bring both hands around to the inside of the foot if you just have one block. If you don't have a block, that's okay too. You can have the hands on the floor or hands can be on the knee. But again here, we're going to find a pause. Again, about 1.5 minutes. But don't worry about the time. I'll watch that for you. You just get to pause here in this stretch. Again, when we find that pause, our mind likes to take off, right? It likes to go all different directions. So again, you can always try bringing your mind or your focus to the sensation of your breath. Maybe you like to keep that focus on a physical connection, maybe with the hands connected with the floor or the foot or the knee. Or another thing you might try is drawing your focus into wherever you feel a sensation in the body. For example, it might be a little stretch through the left hip flexor. Maybe you feel an extension through the spine. Maybe you feel a little pain in the knee. Maybe that's a good sign that you need to back out of the stretch a little bit. Again, just maybe choosing one of those things to keep bringing that focus back to whenever you notice the mind going elsewhere. And we're already at about 3 breaths left here. Okay, as you feel ready, on that next inhale, coming back to those hands. If you're using a block, maybe bringing that block with you. We're going to walk our hands back, and slowly we're going to lift those right toes off the floor, so we're going to flex through the foot. Now a couple options here. You can keep these hands lifted. You can come up onto the knee, gently folding over the leg here, or you can lower all the way down to your heel. Again, if you have a block, you can bring that block underneath the right hip. Again, definitely don't need to use it, but it is helpful if you have it. So either way, wherever you are at, both hands can come to the floor. And as we inhale, we want to sit up nice and tall. And on the exhale, just try to hinge at the hips. So the only thing that's bending is at the waist. We're just slowly going to walk these hands forward until we can't really go any further. And when you find that spot, then feel free to soften through the shoulders. Maybe you drop the chin towards the chest as we fold over that right leg. If this is uncomfortable on that left knee, you can always do the seated with the right leg extended out in front of you. Now, one way that we can use the breath to go a little deeper into the stretch, we call our sinking breath. It's hardly any movement at all, but maybe on our inhale, try to find a tiny, tiny little lift through the spine or through the torso. And then on the exhale, maybe you can fold a little deeper over that leg. So inhale, try to reach the crown of the head forward, and exhaling as you fold. And just finding your space here, trying to find some stillness. 3 more breaths. Maybe bringing that awareness back to the breath. And then as you feel ready, on an inhale, let's sit back up. We'll bring those hands back to the floor. We're going to walk these hands forward once again. So just lifting those hips, walking those hands forward till they come out in front of our foot. And then tucking those left toes, lifting the knee, lifting those hips, and go ahead and step back to your downward dog. Feel free to walk out those heels once again, or just move around side to side. Okay, on our next inhale, gently coming forward into your plank, bringing both knees down to the mat, and then exhaling as we lower down to the chest and the belly. We're going to slide these arms forward until we come up onto our elbows, our forearms, and our palms. So this is called Sphinx. Just peek down, see if you can have those elbows directly underneath those shoulders, and then those hands about the same distance apart. So you can totally hang out here and do nothing. No one will know any different. It's just a nice little chest opener and also a little back bend. So if you'd like to engage here, on our next breath in, try to lift up tall through the crown of the head. Try to lift those ears away from those shoulders. Maybe as you breathe out, see if you can draw those shoulder blades back a little more as we draw those shoulder blades closer together. And then as you continue to lift here, see if you can just soften through the gaze. The gaze just being right off the tip of the nose, so that way our neck stays in line with the spine. Just breathing into the chest. Maybe try to lift, especially as you breathe out, try to lift that lower belly up away from the floor a little bit further. But then, as you go down into those legs, feel free to soften and relax through the glutes, through the thighs, tops of the feet. Just breathing into that upper body. We're going to pause for 3 more breaths with the crown of the head lifted up high. Then we're going to give that neck a little rest. So maybe on the next exhale, try to stay lifted from those shoulders up. But maybe we just drop the chin a little closer to the chest here. And just allow for a little more space, a little stretch through the back of the neck. You can keep it right where it's at, or you can move that chin side to side. You can still try to stay engaged through the core, through the mid-back, through those shoulders and the arms. And as you're ready, bringing that gaze back to center. And on the exhale, go ahead and lower all the way down. Bring those hands together. The forehead can just rest on the tops of those hands. And allowing the shoulders, the chest, the belly, everything to just rest on the mat. Okay, feel free to stay here as long as you'd like, but when you're ready to move on, go ahead and bring those hands underneath the shoulders, and on an inhale, let's lift up to our knees, tucking the toes, reaching those hips back, and all the way up, finding our downward dog. So let's try the other side with those legs, with those hips. So on our inhale, let's lift our left leg, reaching it back and up. On the exhale, we'll bend through the left knee, drawing it forward, stepping that foot towards the front of our mats. And you can always help that ankle forward or walk the hands back. Slowly lowering down to that right knee, untucking those toes. Again, just pause here, notice if that feels okay on the knees. If we need to adjust, please always feel free to do so. You can bring that block underneath the hands if you'd like. You can keep the hands on the floor. You can bring hands up to the knee. You can even lower down to those forearms along the inside of the foot if you'd like. So just finding your space. Maybe just check in and notice what you might feel inside the body right now, whether it's a stretch or something else. One of the beauties of Yin Yoga, of holding and pausing for a little longer than you might normally, is it just really allows you the time to notice what's going on in the body and in the mind. Places that sometimes we don't necessarily want to pause and be in, but with practice, with anchors such as the breath or the physical connection, and over time we'll be able to be more comfortable in those areas. But please always give yourself permission to come out of it at any point if anything becomes overwhelming. Let's find about 3 more breaths here. And then as you feel ready, making your way back to those hands. And slowly we'll lift through the torso, drawing in through the belly as we start to walk the hands and the hips back. Again, you can also bring your block underneath that left hip, or you can just have a seat on the heel, or you can stay lifted on that knee and just folding over the leg this way. Again, either way, wherever you are at, on the inhale, try to lift and extend first. Create some space through the spine, through the torso, and then on an exhale, we slowly start to hinge at those hips. So walking those hands forward, try to lead with the heart. Reaching the heart towards the foot until you find that spot where you can't really fold any further, and then feel free to soften through the upper body. Always an option, you can bring those hands to the knee, stacking those hands and find a spot here for the head to rest. Or you can just drop the chin and allow the head to hover over that leg. Finding your focal point, your breath, your connection or sensation that you feel in the body. And just remember, it's the mind's job to think about a lot of stuff, so it's naturally going to be distracted and go elsewhere. So just being kind when you notice that happening, it's totally okay, and you can just bring the focus back until it happens again, as it will. About 3 more breaths. Try to bring that focus back to the breath here. And then as you're ready, maybe on an inhale, bring those hands back to the mat, lifting the hips, walking those hands forward once again. And then tuck in the right toes, lifting the knee, lifting both hips as we step the left foot back to that downward dog. Feel free to walk out those heels. Maybe let's all take a deep breath in through the nose and a long breath out through the mouth. All right, we're going to lower down to both knees. Go ahead and swing those feet around to the sides so you have a seat on your mat. And then both legs can come out in front of you. Hands come along or behind the body, fingertips pointing in. And on that inhale, let's lift nice and tall through the heart center. Turning that gaze up, getting a little lighter in those hips. You can keep the hips on the floor, or you can lift them up and point those toes. Let's just try to reverse all those forward folds we were doing. So just 3 breaths here. Lifting the heart up, squeezing those shoulder blades together behind the body as they draw down the spine. 1 more full breath. And then exhaling, go ahead and come back to center, finding a comfortable seat. And let's take 2 more breaths together here. So first, just finding your space. Maybe you take a few shoulder rolls. And then just finishing that next exhale. On an inhale, let's take a deep breath in through the nose. And exhaling out through the nose. And then just a nice cleansing breath in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Well, thank you again, as always, for joining me. Again, that was just a tiny little intro to some yin yoga. We'll do some more down the road as we get further into it. So have a great day, and I hope to see you next time. Namaste.